Heyo, I'm Creato, and today I'll be showing you how to craft and use a crafter in the 1.21 Tricky Trials update, including everything you need to know about the crafter to automatically craft any block or item you want. Also, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel as your support really means a lot. So the crafter is a new block that can automatically craft any block or item as long as it has all the required materials. This means that with a crafter you can combine two items to make a different item or simply craft one item into another type of item. This will allow you to automatically produce items that are not farmable but still have ingredients that are farmable. And to craft a crafter, all you'll need is 5 iron ingots, 2 redstone dust, a dropper, and a crafting table, all of which are easy items to get, meaning it should be no trouble to craft a crafter early on. And if you know how droppers work, then you'll get how crafters work, because a crafter works very similarly to a dropper. You can think of a crafter as being a combination of both a dropper and crafting table. This is because a crafter can craft any block or item and will then drop it out like a dropper does. A crafter can also be placed in any direction like a dropper, with the face always facing toward you no matter the direction you place it. Keep in mind that the face of the crafter is where the block or item will be dropped, so you can pick it up or collect it. The crafter can also be powered from any side to activate it, but you should leave the front side open to drop out the item. And since crafters can be placed in any direction, that means you can change where the item will be dropped, which allows you that extra bit of control on how the crafter works. The crafter also has an inventory similar to the normal crafting table, except that the buttons in a crafter are clickable. This will just toggle them between being on or off, which determines if an item can be placed in that slot or not. This will be useful when putting in items that require different shapes in the crafting grid. A crafter will also show the block or item that is being crafted, but you can't actually take out the item from the crafter yourself. This is just to show you what will be crafted, so you can make sure to set up the crafter in the right way you want. And when a slot is turned off in a crafter, that means that it cannot have any item in it until you turn it back on. A crafter will also not craft anything until it receives a redstone signal. This means that once a crafter is able to craft something and receives power from redstone, it will then craft and drop the block or item. The items used to craft will be consumed and anything else left will remain in the crafter. However, if there's extra items that were used to craft but still left behind, those items will also be dropped. This includes something like empty buckets after crafting a cake. A crafter can also only craft one thing at a time, even if it's able to craft something else and still powered from the previous item crafted. All you need to do is just then unpower and then repower the crafter, and the next item will then be crafted. This means that when you're making an automatic crafter, you need to find a way to only power the crafter when it's able to craft something, and then leave it unpowered when it can't craft anything. This will then allow you to craft any block or item, as long as the crafter has a constant supply of items to craft with. And you can of course keep a constant supply of items by moving items from a farm into a crafter to then be crafted into something else. This includes using a flower farm to craft dyes, which would be more useful to have than the flowers. And when you really start to think of it, there are lots of things that can be crafted by just using the items that are already producible from farms. All you need to do is of course just change the slots in a crafter based on the item you are trying to craft. And if you really want, you can make a very simple automatic crafter by creating a small redstone clock to power the crafter every few seconds. Just make sure to of course keep it full of items and it will always be crafting. This is a quick solution if you just want to set up an automatic crafter fast and will only input one type of item to craft one other type of item. However, this would only work with blocks or items that can only craft one other item, since if you use something like iron ingots, it will start crafting all sorts of things as the iron ingots start to run out. This is because some items like iron ingots can craft lots of other items on their own. And since you don't want to waste items crafting other items you don't want, that's why it's better to make a proper automatic crafter if you are planning to use it more often. But first you need to understand how a crafter works with a comparator. And this is really easy to understand, since each slot turned off in a crafter will increase the comparator level by 1. This is important to know so you can keep track of the comparator strength that is outputted from a crafter depending on how full the crafter is. And the order of the slots also doesn't matter, since a comparator will always match the amount of slots full or turned off. This means you can check the comparator strength outputted by a crafter full of items, so you know at what power level to activate the crafter once it's full. And this can be done by placing a crafter with a comparator behind it and to the side as well, followed by something that can give different power levels like a lectern. Then put the items in the crafter and turn off any slots that won't be needed. This is to ensure that the crafter will only craft the item you want since the rest of the slots are turned off. Then put a book in the lectern and remove one item from the crafter so you can detect when the crafter is about to be full. Now flip through the pages of the book until you notice the comparator behind the crafter turns off. This means that this is the power level the crafter gets full at, which is when it needs to be powered. Now you can put the last item in the crafter, and you should notice the comparator turns on when the crafter is full, and then turns back off when the crafter isn't full. This is how you detect when the crafter is able to craft something. Then all you need to do is place some redstone dust to connect the comparator to the crafter so it can receive the power to craft the item. And now the crafter will only be powered when it is able to craft something, and then unpowered when it is not able to craft anything. As items fill up in the crafter, nothing will happen until the crafter is full, which is when it will craft the item, and then start to fill up again if there's a hopper and chest next to it. A crafter is also able to put items into containers like chests, barrels, and shulker boxes without needing a hopper. This allows for all the items crafted to be stored in much larger amounts without needing to be dropped on the ground. Just of course make sure there is enough storage space, because once the chest is full, the items would just be dropped on the ground again. And if you're using shulker boxes, then you can just set up an auto shulker loader that would break the shulker when full and place a new one down. This would then allow you to have much more storage in a smaller space. And hoppers can also put items into a crafter so you can keep it full of materials to craft with. Plus, droppers and crafters are also able to put items into a crafter, which gives other options to fill up a crafter with items to craft with. This means you can use a crafter in many different ways to be used for crafting any type of item, like using a wheat farm to supply items for a crafter to make bread, which then gets dropped into a villager breeder, or using a crafter supplied by a gold and carrot farm to automatically craft golden carrots using the items from both farms. Plus, you can even craft some items further to make another type of item, like turning logs into planks and then into chests combined with shulker shells to create an automatic shulker box crafter to always keep you in supply. Maybe even combine some items from other farms to craft something that isn't farmable like pumpkin pies. And you can also use a crafter to turn items into blocks for more compact storage, like turning iron ingots into iron blocks or slime balls into slime blocks. And a crafter can also easily automate any part of crafting for farms that need it, like turning flowers into dyes so you can save time not having to, and even turn blocks into multiple variants like slabs, stairs, and fences. And these are all just a few different ways to use a crafter, since there are still so many other ways a crafter can be used to automate parts of your world. Just think of any farms you can combine the items of to craft something else that can't be directly produced by a farm. This is the most simple and best use for a crafter, since it would mean you wouldn't have to spend time crafting all the items made by farms anymore. And with certain farms that have lots of items, that just gives you even more choices on what to craft. And you can even combine lots of different farms together to craft items that use many different items like cake or various redstone components. This would be really useful since all of the items from redstone components are farmable, like planks, cobblestone, iron ingots, and redstone dust. Or you can craft some less complex recipes that only use two types of items, like TNT, which might be useful for certain types of farms, or torches, which will always be useful to light up places around your world. And of course, the most simple use for a crafter is just turning one type of item into another, like compacting items down into block form. This would help save space on storage, allowing you to keep even more items saved up in a small area. As well as turning one type of item into another, like bones to bone meal for farms, or blaze rods into blaze powder for brewing, or just simply crafting items to supply another type of farm, which would help keep all of your farms running with minimal input. Crafters will help you create all sorts of different contraptions that can be used for all sorts of scenarios, from crafting unfarmable items to simply compacting items to save on space.